We had kind of a crazy individual by the name of Osama bin Laden ran 2 airplanes to the towers. Mm-hmm. And in the blink of an eye, I lost 100% of our business.
Hey guys, welcome to another epic episode of 11 out of 10 podcast. Today we will be joined by a legend himself, an NFL legend, a true one, wide receiver for many teams. He's a big boy, big in the pockets, big in the arms, and he's a stellar man and a good friend of mine, Johnny the Rocket Mistler. Today we're gonna be talking about a variety of information. We will cover how to get banking, how to get qualified by a banker, what inside secrets and tips you should know when going in to meet with somebody that's gonna go to bat for you at the committee when you're asking for $500,000, $1 million, or even $10 or $20 million. He will tell you the secrets and tidbits and how to act and how to present to the bankers to be ready to rock and roll. We cover it all from A to Z. This amazing episode, grateful to have Johnny join us, and stay tuned because this one truly is 11 out of 10.
I want to get into that. It's a good story too, and we'll bring it back. Where did you get your work ethic from? It sounds like your dad he was always working or not really in the picture. I know he pushed you in terms of school and they got their education, but where did this hard work and energy and drive come from?
I don't know. I've always thought about that, but I can't sit still. So every day I'm doing something.
You are an antsy guy.
Yeah. You know, if I'm around the house, I've got to be doing something. And that's the only way I knew how to get there. And I probably did it too much because of the physical part.
Right.
I physically probably did too much and wore my legs out. But, you know, those are the prices that you pay.
Sure.
To get where you want to get. And that's all I knew. So I figured if I did that and I outworked everybody else, I was going to be more prepared. So I'd have a better opportunity that when my chance came, I'd be there.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's been my motto and how I've run in business and everything else. I get to work early. I never go through the front door to meet people. I don't mean literally, but I always get opportunities in strange ways.
For sure.
Because I'm always trying to build on what I did. So the very first day I got into business development in the banking business, I still have relationships from then. That's 39 years ago.
For sure.
And that's what's important for people doing anything in life is those relationships.
The number one thing in every business.
Everybody thinks they can do it themselves.
No.
You can only get about that far of this far you have to get to. And if you really want to be great, everybody will tell you, this was my mentor in this part. This was my mentor in this part. People can help you grow and give you different ideas. But the people that always think they can do it themselves, there's always somebody around the corner with a baseball bat to hit you.
For sure.
Whether it's the stock market or whatever it is.
For sure. Let's actually talk about it. I mean, a lot of times people are always talking about their successes and how much money they have and how great they are, but it comes with the sacrifice and hardships.
It does.
You know, the road to the top is always volatile. Let's talk about some downfalls in terms of maybe injuries in football, how you were resilient and overcome, you know, probably financial hardships, physical hardships. Let's talk about that.
Well, football was, I just basically wore out my knees. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get them operated on. And the year that I got, the year after I got them operated on, I got my biggest opportunity in NFL. I got to start 16 games.
Wow.
But really I was about 85 to 90% of myself.
Right.
Because I was still rehabbing, still getting those things back. And so you were fighting it the whole time.
Yeah.
So that really taught me a big lesson that you've always got to be prepared for those things to happen to you. So, you know, in banking, I started off with the United Bank, going out and getting deposits and those type of things.
Well, hold on real fast.
Sure.
How do you go from the NFL to all of a sudden banking? What was the transition
Real simple.
from that? Okay.
I retired on May 15th. May 16th, my second child was born.
Nice.
I had a house payment, 2 car payments, and no job.
That's a problem.
So John Mistler just looked at himself and said, okay, you thought you were pretty cool being a football player in New York and all this stuff. And you know, now you got to go use what your mom and dad told you had to have, which I had my degree, went back to Arizona State, went back to the marketing department. They said, here's an opportunity. I took it. So I was out of work for 30 days, started that. And then I have just taken that relationship building opportunity and built it to where I'm at today. I mean, literally, that's how I started. it was just kind of like everybody goes, well, I don't know what I want to do. You know, my advice to people was just get a job, just start.
Sure.
Just figure it out. I mean, it's like your career. You had ambitions to do it this way, but you probably don't do things exactly the way you did it then.
It evolves.
You have evolved through this whole thing and gotten better at every step of the way. And that's really what I did. I mean, it's very simple. In my world, it's KISS program. Keep it simple.
I love it. Yeah, I don't overcomplicate anything. You see how I run my business,
I know.
right?
I mean, you can analyze
You asked me
things to
before,
death.
where's your office? Where's this? Where's your commercial space? What kind of car do you drive? I'm like, John, this is my business, man. Here's all my stuff. And you're like, I like that.
Yeah, why do you need to go into an office when you can do it? You know your renters, you know your all the people you're dealing with, you know your banker, you know your I mean, that's the way to do it. Too many people lose out on that because of this.
Yep.
You can use this, you use this to a T, but you also haven't forgotten this part. The personal relationships.
I value this. And again, for the audience, by the way, John is my primary banker, and he's with a great bank. I'm happy to promote First Fidelity Bank here in Arizona, and they are you're in multiple states.
Yeah,
right?
We're in Oklahoma, Colorado, and here we lend all over the country.
Yep.
We do a lot of real estate. We're predominantly a real estate bank.
Yep.
We do a lot of 504 loans. We do a lot of owner-occupied loans, and we do a lot of investment real estate.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we can do. You know, the feds don't let us do it all invested real estate, but
for sure.
We've been very successful. And frankly, during this downturn, it's been very fortunate that we have been in real estate. And the reason why I say that is a lot of companies that have lines of credit, their rates went up 5.5%.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, in like overnight in a 12-month period.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, but that goes back to being prepared and having hard knocks. I mean, I'll tell you a story about a business I owned. I had just founded a bank because I consider myself more of an entrepreneur. I founded a bank with 10 other guys from Minnesota. We raised $20 million, started the bank. And at the same time, I had this opportunity with a neighbor to get in this new technology called directional drilling, where if you drive around towns, you'll see them putting in fiber underneath streets and everything. And there's this machine that kind of sits on the side, and it's a drill that drills underneath things.
They did that in my neighborhood recently, yeah.
So I invested in that. 6 months later, he dies. He had an aneurysm. And I was fortunate enough to take the business from our first year from $1 million to $30 million. But in year 5, we had kind of a crazy individual by the name of Osama bin Laden ran 2 airplanes to the towers. I had planned, you know, it's a very capital intensive business because you got equipment that you have to keep up. And in the blink of an eye, I lost 100% of our business because if you remember the world then, everything shut down. I had $26 million worth of backlog. I had 400 employees that got paid weekly.
Wow.
And I was also the president of a bank at the same time. And our business was in California. So you know, you really have to look at yourself and say, who are you at that point and how are you going to handle this? So I cashed that all in, paid everybody off. Amazing. Still have 800 credit score because I didn't just hand everything back to people.
Right.
And I did the right thing, paid all my employees and just shut that down and then decided to stay in the business and have done various things since then.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of the learning things that you have to be prepared for.
100%.
You know, like you went through 2008 after you had been in the business for 4 or 5 years.
Correct.
Which sounds like a long time, but
it's nothing.
That was when you were young doing this and you were learning, and that was probably one of the best things you ever went through.
All of it. I mean, some of these downfalls make you who you are today and a much more sound, wiser, you know, intelligent investor going through these hardships.
You run your business a certain way because of that. 100%. You invest a certain way.
Contingency planning.
Exactly.
Everyone's always looking about how much money can I make on a deal? Now I say, what's the downside risk of the opportunity?
Right.
You know, and does this make sense? Is the risk versus, you know, the risk reward ratio worth it?
Right.
Everyone always thinks about profitability. It's not about profitability.
No, it isn't. I mean, you have to have it.
Of course.
That's inherent. But if that's all you're concerned about, you're missing 3/4 of the business.
At least. Agreed. Let's talk about how we met. This is a great story. I was working with multiple banks in town, and a gentleman who's a big attorney in town says, Zach, who's your top banks? And I was telling him, he goes, you got to meet these guys. They're amazing. So I had a warm introduction from an existing client because of your level of service and drive and execution. I got to tell you firsthand too, there's no like BS. I don't get paid to say this. I endorse you to the highest level. Nobody moves quicker on opportunities than you guys do. If I call you up and I say, in fact, if I'm buying a big, massive deal, 20 at a time, and I say, hey, can you get this done? And even before it goes to committee, I will have this done. Right. So I know that I can move forward with 100% definity when I get your word.
Well, in life, a few things are very important. Number one in life is commitment. Mm-hmm. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I got to do it.
Yep.
Because you're going to remember that the rest of your life, and I am too.
Yep.
Even though I may not want to,
yep.
but I've got to come through and do that. And so, when I got that opportunity, I got it on a Sunday night. The attorney texts me like at 9:30 at night, and I call you and you're like, well, I'm talking to a couple of banks. I said, look, hey, I got to talk to you tomorrow.
Yep.
This guy gave me this lead. He says you're the best in town. I've got to do the same thing, kind of like what he told you about us.
Yeah.
And I said, I've got to talk to you. And you said, well, okay, I'll do it. But this is what you got to do. And I said, fine, I'll meet you at Camelback Toyota.
100%.
And you tell me where you're going to be.
Yep.
Oh, I'm getting my car worked on. I'm getting my oil changed. I said, okay, just tell me. I'll call you when I get there. And I did. And we sat there and I said, if you can do this.
Outside at Camelback Toyota. I was literally, my Prius is getting fixed.
I know.
And I'm super busy. I need to get back on the road to look at opportunities. And you showed up with the coffee and documents and things that you needed. And I'm like, man, I really respect the president of the bank shows up, drives across town to meet me on my time to build the relationship.
Well, that's what I do now. I don't hold a portfolio per se. I mean, I know all my clients, I do that, but I do that on purpose because that way I can react and be that way.
Yeah.
We are probably one of the only banks, it's the only bank I know that has 2 senior loan committee meetings. That's for the bigger loans, twice a week.
Yeah.
That's our commitment to you guys.
To streamline
the process and to get things approved. And it's been that way since I've been here. And that's just how life works. Like it's when you go to the New York Giants, they say, this is how we work. Fortunately, the bank that I came to, that's what they said. This is how we work. And it just folded in to my work ethic perfectly because then I just took that and said, okay, guys, this is how we need to do it. We have to fit into this program, get them committed to us because we're bringing them good deals, et cetera, et cetera. Then we can supply that service to the people out in the street. So we had to do it internally, then externally. And that's how we were able to get your deal done, I think, in 7 days.
It was incredible. Yeah. It's
and
unheard of.
I knew if we did that, we had you and you were going to refer us. So
for sure.
That's how I've built my business. Plain and simple, just that simple. I mean, there's nothing fancy about it. It's just, if I tell you I'm going to do it, I got to focus on it, do it, and done.
Yep. And I literally consolidated. I said, I'm done with all these other 3 regional banks, gave you all my business. We have a big line of credit and a big takeout and continue to grow incrementally. It's been incredible. The relationship's the best I've ever had. So I'm grateful for that. And again, I couldn't do my business on my own without banking. You can only grow and scale so much with just cash.
Right. And I tell people all the time, and I'm sure I don't even have to ask you this, but your CPA, your attorney, your banker, and sometimes depending on what business you're in, your insurance agent, they're your sounding boards. Mm-hmm. And they have to be as good as you are if you're going to be successful.
For sure.
And they have to believe in you and your business the same way. And so that's just what I preach. I see myself as a preacher and a deliverer and make commitments and live up to them.
Oh, you do. You deliver. It's amazing.
It's tougher
I love
when you
watching
got money.
You work a room. You're so well connected. I see you out at the Phoenix Open. Everyone's coming up to you, shaking hands, taking pictures. I mean, you know everybody in town.
The only problem with that is you can't remember everybody's name. That's the big issue.
But I think you do. I've never seen you miss on someone's name.
No, it's after a while, it becomes fun.
Sure.
Because I can look at people and say, I know I helped him.
Yeah.
There's people I've given their first, and they're real estate people here in town. I gave them their first loan and they've made $75, $80 million since then in like 8 years. I mean, and their names, but those are the things that give me satisfaction because I've helped somebody else. And if you do it that way, that's how you win. It isn't about profitability. It's about other things too.
For sure. For sure. What is your regiment today? I know you were super regimented in football and obviously not with the bank. I know you're the first guy in.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like what's your workout stuff. You're obviously a super healthy guy. What drives you in the morning? Talk to me about your routine.
I mean, I work the best probably from till noon.
Okay.
And then after that, I start going downhill and always have. It's just, I've always been a morning person. I get up early. I get up at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I go work out. I've had a bunch of knee replacements, so that kind of hampered it for a while, but I've gotten that back on track just over time. I like to get in and get prepared every day, get my game plan for the day. I do a list. I know it's old school, but I do a list every day. And then I follow that list. And I pride myself, if somebody calls me in a day, worst case, I will get back to them that day. Or I will text them and say, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I will call you first thing. I had a guy call me this morning at 6:15 in the morning, and I just got a new puppy. So I said, can I?
What kind of dog?
I got this Mountain View Cur. It's a great hound. I got it from Kentucky. I named her Ellie Mae for the Clampetts, Beverly Hillbillies, because I picked her up.
So cute.
I picked her up in Kentucky, drove her back, and now she's living in North Scottsdale.
Did you guys bond on that trip back?
Oh, because, my wife and I decided we flew out and we weren't going to fly her back because we figured the dog has got to know who we are.
Yeah.
And we have a place in Pine Top, so we go up there all the time. But
that's awesome.
But that's my regiment, really, is just get prepared every day. So when the surprises come, I've gotten the stuff I have to get done out of the way, and then I can deal with them. So I deal with a lot of my problems and everything the last part of the day, because that's just what happens. And I don't want to not be able to take care of the people that work for me on a daily basis. If they call me, I got to be available for me. Or if you call me, I've got to say, yeah, let's go through this. What are you trying to do? I got to have the time to give you. Because if I don't, you're going to say, well, why didn't he give me the time he did at the beginning? Sure. He just wanted my business. Now he's got my business. He doesn't want it. And that's how you keep relationships for years. And that's the only way you do it.
I love it. Talk to me about, so no one really talks about banking. Everyone's always just talking about, hey, there's perception is hard money, cash business, OPM. Yeah. What are things you look for when you were vetting me and I come in and, someone can walk into your bank and wants to do business with you, or advice for people that are hoping to become bankable? What are things you look at? Do you get into their, for example, social media? What type of due diligence outside of their proof of funds? How do you vet the proof of funds? What's important when you go to committee, other reputations and testimonials? Really break that down for people that say, geez, I realize I don't have to be spending, 10% hard money. I can go into a regional bank. What does that look like?
Well, for me, I'm a little different.
We're here in Dallas, Texas with Orion.
Yes,
Orion's been on, how long have you been on Investorlift for?
1 year, September 26th is the renewal. Investorlift, absolutely 100%. Paid for this money back in the first month. You got access to all these buyers, click one button, you get sent out to massive amounts of buyers. The leads come in. And then what's cool is that we have a CRM that's kind of connected to Investorlift, whereas when they text message you or they call you, it automatically gets added to your buyers list. So within 1 year of being with Investorlift, we've already added 55,000 buyers to our contact list, which is a good deal, my friend.
I don't prepare when I meet a person. And the reason it's from when I first got into banking. I used to prepare and I'd have this list and I felt like I wasn't myself. I was reading off this book of this list and I'd go, okay, so tell me about your cash management. And I'm going, John, aren't you smart enough to ask that question? Right. So what I do is on the first meeting, I go in and I challenge myself to find out everything I can about you and can I trust you? That is I don't look at social media. I don't look at anything until after I get financials, I get everything. That's one of the last things I look at because I try to trust myself. Your intuition. Can I believe in you that if something goes wrong, you and I are going to work together to get it done? I love that. And that's what's driven me and helped me be successful, frankly. Yeah. Because there are a lot of people that have a lot of shine, but it's all leased and it's all rented and They don't have any equity.
All
and then
flash and no cash.
That's exactly right. But, the big thing is people have liquidity is very important because of what we talked about earlier, the downturns, the things that you can't see. You got to be prepared for that. Or you've got to have a bank that's giving you a line of credit that gives you the opportunity to be able to tap those things, and they believe in you, and you've got equity and other things. So I'm a big believer in that. Equity is important to me. I don't like the people that are just trying to make that one deal, because 9 out of 10 times you're not going to make it.
Right, and then there's no security.
You're not smart enough. You got to learn it by getting beat up.
Yeah.
And so, but that's typically how I do it. And then, then we've got the whole other gambit of put it through the paces and all of those things. But there's still things that if I have a feeling about people, I'll still give them money.
Right. So that's really interesting. So most people's perception is you got to walk in, you got to have a lot of equity, you got to have a good balance sheet. Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true for you.
Not necessarily true, but you have to show that you can get that, and that you have the discipline to get yourself there, and that you're built that way.
And what are the questions to determine if somebody possesses those attributes to be bankable?
Part of it is tell me the businesses you've been in, and tell me the worst thing that's happened to you.
I like that.
And then how did you get out of it?
Love that. Right.
And you can't imagine how many people just draw blanks because they don't want to tell you how they got out of things.
Right.
They didn't do it right. They didn't take care of their business.
Mm-hmm. So I love when you told me, just reverse psychology here, you said, Zach, I built this thing. I love the transparency and the vulnerability. $1 million business, grew to 30 million, Bin Laden, and all of a sudden, but you did the right thing. That's so critical too. A lot of people could have just said, I could have salvaged 5 million, screwed the employees, got it. You did what's best for everybody around, not for yourself.
Exactly.
And I believe in karma. Like, I've lost a lot of money before, and how do you come out of those situations? Stronger. You do things differently moving forward.
Yeah, I pulled money out of a ESOP.
Mm-hmm. Employee stock options.
And paid 10%.
Wow.
And then paid everybody back.
Amazing.
And then paid taxes on it.
But that's your character.
But those are the kinds of people that you look for.
Right.
Not everybody's going to be able to get out of every situation. But if I have somebody, if I'm going to stand by you and you're going to stand by me, then we have a much better chance of getting there.
For sure.
That's what's important. And bankers all say those things and they talk ratios and they do that. And our bank has all of those things. But part of it still has to be, do I believe in that person? And I believe that's how our organization is. We're from the Midwest, and it's, yes, the numbers are important and they all have to be there. You can't just go, I like this guy and I'm going to give him $10 million.
Correct.
But if they have that and the intangibles and you can believe in them, you can find ways to get them to that. So maybe I can only give you 7 today, but in a year I'll have you 10.
So you could give them benchmarks and say, listen, I believe in you. I'm going to give you this. And then if you report and you have this growth on this time frame, then I believe we can get to this.
Because you know what? Then we've both shown each other, you said this, you did this,
and
then I've lived up to it. Both
Yeah.
of us have. Not
Correct.
just me, the bank, but you have. I mean, we both have.
Yeah.
And a lot of times banks will say that, but they don't follow through.
Sure.
And that's what I like about FFB. They have given, First Fidelity Bank has given me the opportunity to be myself and to take what I believe in, which is a lot of their culture, out to the market. And we don't really advertise.
Right.
My advertising is you and the guy, the attorney.
Word of mouth. You treat people so well that when somebody says, and it's inevitable in the business because it's a small world out there and other people, who's your bank? Who do you recommend? I get that question all the time.
How many referrals do you get a day?
For opportunities?
All day.
All day long.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't,
and I spend $0 on marketing.
and you don't cold call and cold calling
But I
for you
used
is,
to, right.
No, well, you have to.
Of course.
Everybody has to.
Yeah, it's important
But
to
you
people to say, well, this business comes here. Let's be real. This is 22 years in business for me. And I spent a lot of money and time at the very bottom as well, grinding and driving and spending money and building, relationships, one handshake, one belly at a time.
But it taught you that was a better way of doing it. And that's what that's what banking did for me.
Right.
I don't want to go call on a guy and it be a a cold lead and the guy goes, yeah, hey, I like you. We'll call you when something comes up. Well, that could be 10, 12, 30 years.
That ain't going to support your bank.
I just had a guy who I'm in the Thunderbirds with his son-in-law, and unfortunately, he died. I tried to get his business for 45 years.
Jeez. It's a long time.
It was never time.
Yeah.
And I have a great relationship with him.
Right.
But it just was never the right time. So I like to get referrals just like you do.
Hot
Somebody
leads,
says,
ready to
here's an
go.
opportunity.
And you
should go jump on it because
Yeah.
I know what you'll do. You execute.
Right.
That's
It's like going to a great restaurant, right? You have this great meal. When it's so good, you tell everybody, you go to the gym the next day, man, I just ate at this Mexican place. You got to try it. What do those people do? Top of mind, they're there, and the place is super busy.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
life is pretty simple, really, if you really break it down.
So let's give some more value to the audience when they come and meet with you for that first meeting or any other bankers out there nationally. What are other things that somebody could do proactively to be prepared for that first meeting to increase the opportunity of being bankable?
The key thing is people are afraid to show who they are. And so I always tell people, if you would just bring a personal financial statement and a little bit on your business and maybe a couple years worth of financials, that's not a bad thing. The problem is you learn real quick that people are trying to hide things.
For sure.
So when somebody comes prepared like that, they've got their act together because they know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And in the bank, it's a real simple thing. They just want to know your financial position and then your story. And you've got to have your story down. This is how I started. This is what I did. Here is my first win. And here's what I did to kind of repeat that over and over and over and over again. And here's what I learned from it. If you just say that to people, people are going to go, okay, this guy didn't just throw a bunch of money and got lucky because the market was good at that time.
For sure.
Because you've been through how many downturns now? 3?
No, I mean, the big one was, 08. And then, of course, there's some volatility, but really only one serious downturn.
I've been through 4.
Okay.
And the people that are honest and can just come in and say, here's what we did during that time, that means they know it. They've studied it.
Of course. And they're good operators.
Right.
Yeah.
Investorlift sells 3,000 to 5,000 properties a month. And the cool thing is, the reason this company is worth so much, they have all the data. They know everything about every buyer and every market and every property.
Every buyer in America has a profile.
Every buyer in America.
But that's the key coming to talk to a bank. Everybody's afraid of it because they think they're going to put the microscope on it. And frankly, we as bankers create that. Well, I got to see your numbers first. No, I need to know you first.
I love
that. And I want to know your numbers.
And somebody's just got to be authentic to who they are, not their perception of what you want them to say. Like you say, show me your true colors. Who are you as a person? What are you involved in? Well,
that's why I don't, this sounds crazy. I don't go in 100% prepared because I look at myself and say, I'm going to trust myself. I can make that happen.
I love that about you. That's so cool.
And basically what ends up happening is I ask better questions because I'm actually listening to them so that I can come back to them versus thinking I know what I need to ask them. Then you know what I do? I regurgitate to them the questions that I had to have answers to, and I didn't listen to anything they said.
For sure. It's organic. It's authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday, and that Wall Street, what was the name of it? The big dog of Wall Street or something. It was out a few years ago. The guy took his business from zero all the way up here, selling, stocks and bonds, and then he got crushed. His big thing was,
Was it GameStop?
No, it wasn't, but he basically, his key thing was, here, sell me this pen.
Oh.
And you know what everybody did was, okay, now look at this pen and look how beautiful it is. This has a nice black, they didn't say.
Was that Matthew McConaughey or something in a movie?
Yeah, but what they didn't do was say, they didn't say.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
That's what it was. And he goes in there, sell me this pen.
But the issue with it is they didn't ask.
Why do you need the pen?
Exactly. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's
consultative.
So simple.
Be consultative.
That's all I do because,
also be real.
I learned that you got to have the person you got to find out if they really need it. You'll see that they're hurting. And if they're hurting, that means they don't know or they need it, or then you can sell it to them. Most of the time, they don't want to meet with you.
Sure.
They're just cold calling them. But
Interesting. The other thing I want to revert back to, which I love, and it would help other banks too, these committee meetings are so critical because you could say, yeah, Zach, I want to do business with you, but it's not just you. You got to bring it to the committee. You got to wrap it up like a Christmas gift. Like I say, okay, here's the guy's financials. This is his business. Let's get a vote, right? What is it like inside those committee meetings? What does that look like? Some insight.
you have to build your brand.
Okay.
Because I'm you. When you're selling me,
then you got to sell me within
exactly.
that. Yeah.
But I got to sell myself because I'm selling you.
Correct.
And I think bankers forget that. They just sell you. Mm-hmm. And that's only one part of it. I have to step up and say, okay, here's what I see. Here's where our mitigant is. Here's our issue. Because bankers always want to know what's the downside. Well, here's the downside. Here's what could happen. But here's what I like about this guy. Here's what he's done. Here's how he's done it. And I've seen this over and over and over. And in my tenure, this is what happens typically. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm using my brand to sell you.
So you're getting them on board because
It's a
you're
dual
enthusiastic.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself on the line for you. Right. It's almost as if I'm investing in you.
For sure.
I have to actually invest in you, and not just because of the paper,
right,
but because of you.
Belief.
And when that happens, those guys see that.
Right.
They see that. They understand that. We just had one where, we have a loan that's basically CD secured.
Okay.
But they're going a little bit in the wrong direction. Mm. And I had to step up for the lender and say, look, we had this conversation. We said to him point blank, this isn't working. What are we going to do? How are you handling this? What are you doing? So I had to put my reputation, my, chips on the table and say, they're doing it because they're doing this, and this. And because they're going and buying this in San Francisco, it's going to do this for here. And then they're going to get rid of this. And then they all go, I get it now. But those are the things you have to do instead of, well, the numbers don't look good, so really we should downgrade it and we ought to kick them out of the bank. That's what most banks do.
Sure.
But I've worked at smaller banks where you don't have the capital like the big banks just to throw people out.
For sure.
And those relationships will earn you 100 times when you work things out with people.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It's the same mentality with my tenants, for example.
I was just going to say that.
So it's like, most people's perception, well, they didn't pay, a victim. It cost me far more to evict them. It's not just that I evict them and I lose the opportunity cost of that rent that they owed me. Now I got to transition the house. Now I got to paint and carpet. Now I got to remarket, pay a commission to another agent. It's not just I lose $2,500. I lose $6,000 or $7,000. What if I went to the tenant and said, listen, I believe in you. You're a good person. I met you. We're belly to belly. I know you're resilient. I sometimes have to just supercharge them and get them a little more resilient and say, Mr. Mrs. Tenant, we met. I know you're a painter. You're out of work. I got houses you can paint. Let me advertise for you. Let's work together for that win-win situation.
I remember the first time we met, you said, I said, tell me about your clients. And you go, I meet every one of them.
Yep.
And you go, yeah, I've got this person that didn't pay me, but I'm doing this and this and this. I remember that from the very first thing we said. And so I knew right then, you know your clients. It's not just a piece of paper and their, tax returns and their, how good their credit score is.
Again, you don't treat them like an annuity. You treat them like family. You work it out. It's in both of our best interests to always work together. It's the same mentality in banking.
And then that primo, they'll bring you 5 deals because of that.
Of course. This guy worked with me, didn't evict me. Now, if someone doesn't, communication is so key. I'm sure it's the same thing. If someone's
exactly
in default
with me.
and they're not answering the phone, at that point, you're just like, we're done.
Yeah,
but at least have the balls to communicate with me.
Well, you know what I do when that happens? And I'll guarantee I know you do this. I don't even have to ask you. You go right to the house.
Oh, yeah.
I go right to their business and I knock on the door and I'm there before they come in. I watch them go in, then I go in.
Right.
And I say, what are we doing?
Right.
All I wanted was a call. All you had to do was call me. So what are we going to do from here? So how can I earn, how are we going to get our trust back?
Yep.
And then they either, they tell you whether they're going to do it or not. Pretty simple. And that. That's why, you work with certain people.
Right away. They look you in the eye or, hey, you know what? I have some money today. Show good faith. I don't need all the money today. Give me a good faith payment and I'll work with you.
Show me that you're serious about paying me.
There you go. I love that same mentality. Now, how important is it, you meet with somebody, they're smart, they got assets, but maybe they don't show a lot of confidence or excitement. We're both enthusiastic guys, but I can only imagine someone first comes in, they're nervous about banking and whatnot, but they're not really selling themselves, but you still believe in them. What do you tell people when they're ready to show up? Shouldn't they have like mock meetings to present their story to somebody? Or do you think you just, come in there cold?
No, I think they should, especially if there's partners. They need to really sit down and know each other's roles so they don't step on each other, because that can become an issue. You do it yourself, so it's different.
Yeah, I don't think
But when you have a partner, that becomes an issue. And frankly, what's amazing is most businesses are partners, because most people don't have enough self-worth to do it all by themselves. They get to that point because they figure out, I don't want any more partners.
Right.
What did the guy bring me? I thought he was going to do this, but he wasn't as committed as I was. So I think you really need to think about what the bank needs to hear.
Yeah.
And you need to put your best foot forward and say, here's what I'm doing. Here's where I want to get to. Here's my financial means. Here's how I see myself getting there, but here's the part I need you to play.
I love that.
And just understand, we're not going to give you the capital with nothing, because we don't get a return. We get 6 or 7 or 8%, depending on what year and what time of the world it is. Sure. Right now, we get 8.5% if it's prime. But if I invested in you and you went and skyrocketed, I might get $3 million instead of $50,000 worth of payments.
For sure.
And sometimes that's where people don't understand. We're not capital. We are a stopgap in between. Once you get there, you've got to get some of that first. Yeah. You've got friends and family or hard work, and then we can help you that next phase where you have collateral that you can put up and say, here's what I put up because I'm here, but I want to go to here.
Right.
And the best business people, they know how to do that. And they've learned that through that first part.
I love it. And then my final question in terms of just, financials and whatnot, and I'd love to see it. So funny. I've written up, and you guys always ask, Corey, give me an updated personal financial statement. Give me a new personal financial statement. How do you vet those? I'm sure there's a lot of people just fluff a bunch of stuff. Is it bank? Give me some insight in terms of, you get these statements. What percent of them are real? Is it 100%? I mean, I assume a large majority. Obviously, you're providing and certifying statements, but how do you truly vet them? Someone says they're worth $100 million, and you look at this and say, bullshit, or how is it vetted? Do you have underwriters in there that look at that?
We do. And, most people try to make it look as big as they can. That's not really the most important thing. It's access to cash and liquidity and how much equity you have. And that's what you look for. Right. And the people that say they have a business and on the balance sheet it says it's got a net worth of $1 million, and they'll put 10 because that's what they think they could sell it for. Those things you just knock out, and it makes you start thinking, what other things are they doing that on?
Right.
So I really appreciate the people that come in and say, I didn't know exactly what you wanted here, but I'm trying to be conservative, and this is what I put.
Love that.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, especially in real estate.
Yeah.
The best thing to do in real estate in today's world is go out on Zillow, because we do, or Redfin, or whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Go out and look at it and say, especially like another example, your personal house. We all think our personal houses are worth more than they are.
Right.
So if it's $1 million, but on Zillow it's $850, put $850.
There you go.
It's not, that $150 is not going to make a difference, because what you're doing is saying that guy is a straight shooter, and it's just one more of those little checks.
There you go. That's great advice for people. So everyone who perceives, I got to put a big number here, I'm going to stretch this, I have all this equity, when in reality, you're going to cross-reference. And in fact, a lot of times, I'll undervalue my rental. It doesn't matter. My leverage is so low regardless,
exactly.
So it doesn't matter for me with you guys. But for other people that think they have to stretch, they're doing themselves a disservice by doing that, because by puffing or exaggerating equity or valuation is really a red.
It's a red flag. But think about it this way: if you and I are sitting down and you said it's worth $850 and you owe $600, I know I have $250 worth of equity to work with.
Yeah.
Versus $400. So if I come out of that going, okay, it's worth 400, and then me as the lender sends it to all the analysts and they come back and say, it's really on 250. This deal doesn't work. Then I've said to you, if you can do this, this, and this, you already know it's not worth 400. Now I come back with bad news to you.
Right. And we just wasted time. And the next time I send you something, you're like, this guy's notorious for puffing or exagerating. You know what? I don't even want to do business with him.
I discount it if I think it's kind of there, or I just say, let's move on.
Well, hello there. Trick or treat? I think not. We're here at the newest acquisition, and it ain't October 31st yet. It's October 29th, and I just put this bad boy in my portfolio. I'm about to take off my gloves, about to go to the bank, and about to get excited because this thing is about to be rehabbed and put in the rental portfolio. I may even flip it. But I love the more distressed, the greater the upside opportunity here. So welcome to the newest acquisition. If you ever see deals like this, you don't know how to digest them, click below. Let me show you how to turn this trash into cash. We'll see you soon.
Love it.
And you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people that are notorious for those things, whether it be, inventory or all kinds of stuff. It is what it is. If you show your business exactly what it is, you can't believe the respect that you earn from people that are lending you money.
Beautiful advice.
Instead of, I got to do my hair this way today. Why don't you just be yourself?
Totally.
Because if that person likes you as yourself, it's forever.
Yep.
But when they see you when you go home and your hair is different, it isn't the same.
Like, again, going back to the Toyota, here I am in the shorts and the shirt, my dirty shoes, the same thing. There's no put on a magic show.
I love that,
transparent.
frankly. That's one of the main things. I don't think I've ever told you this, but that's one of the main things I said at committee. I love this guy because here's the thing. I showed up, he's driving a Prius, and he's got all this wealth and all this liquidity and all these things that he could be doing, but he is who he says he is.
I appreciate it.
Done.
But I say it on camera too. I don't care about it. I truthfully don't. Like if someone likes this stuff, God bless them. Why don't you drive this? Why don't you do that? I don't care fancy this or that. I care about relationships, being around good people, growing my assets, which are these houses, being around guys like you, Luigi, Robert, just good people.
Exactly.
And that's what excites me in the morning. Opportunities. That's what excites me. Not like, hey, look at this Rolex. I could care less.
Exactly.
When I die and people show up at my funeral and say, do you remember the watch that Zach wore versus, hey, remember the day we spent having, a beer, going to the golf course or, doing a deal together, whatever that may be, No,
I 100% agree.
So I love that. So talk to people about, your kids are boy, girl. What do you have?
I have a boy who's 40 and a daughter who's 37.
Okay.
I have 3 grandkids. My son-in-law graduated. He worked for the NSA and, got his master's in finance at Georgetown because of he retired from the Marines. And so he's doing mini storage stuff now. So
love it. So talk to people as if, you're going to give them fatherly advice through your experience through the NFL, through banking and all your connections and where you're at today. And they say, hey, Dad, give me some advice in terms of future. What do you recommend I do? What steps should I take to become autonomous, an entrepreneur, and financially free? What do you recommend I do?
Number one thing was get to work, find a job.
Okay.
Something that you like. It probably will not be the job that you continue. It's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
Just get started and then keep your eyes open and go to work every day and put in, everybody uses this cliche, but 110 to 120%. Do what the other people aren't willing to do because it's what it's going to do is going to teach you the things that they're not going to learn, number one, and it's going to show people that you are dedicated to make it happen. And by that dedication, you learn it over time. And then when you find, it may take you 1 month or it may take you 15 years, but when you find what you love, you already have the base to just fly. That's what people don't have. Then they have to start all over. I love this, and things they love, they may not be able to execute on them because they didn't do all the blocking and tackling to be successful early.
I love that.
I see it every day, and the people I call on, 90% of them, you ask them, I love asking people what they started doing. It is so different than what they're doing now,
Right.
or how they got into this business. Oh, I was driving down the street and I saw this over there and I said, I could do that. I know 15 people that I could sell that to.
Yeah.
Bam, they do it. But if they don't have that playbook of how to execute it,
Yeah.
they can't. And so it falls aside, and it probably could have been one of the most successful things they've ever done. But people they're not patient. Unfortunately, the cell phone is one of the best things in the world and one of the worst things in the world. But you got to know how to use it to your benefit. And the people that do, it is amazing what they can do.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. That's what I told my kids. Get started, find out what you love, and then just make it your passion and go to it every day. Like, that's all you're going to do today, and you're going to make it work. If it's your children, if you're a mother and it's your children, make that it.
Yeah. Do the things that other people aren't willing to do. And I love that you said that about your football career and the drills, working 11 out of 10, harder than everyone else, and just crushing it and being consistent.
I'll leave you one thing. So when I was in high school, I had this thing on the wall. The road to Easy Street leads through the sewer.
For sure.
Because you don't get to Easy Street by just waking up.
For sure.
You have to get beat up. In football, I mean, it's an easy analogy, but that's it. Mm-hmm. You got to work and grind and whatever. But if you really think about it, you got to work and grind to meet the people, to create relationships, to get your houses to where they need to be, to get your spiel down on how you get people to work with you and get money for it and everything else. That's what people forget. They just think that happens. It doesn't.
Yep. I love it. What are you have a great perspective and access to some of the highest net worth people in Arizona and all these different regions. What are the commonalities and common traits you see with these people with, how they built their businesses? Is a lot of it through real estate? Where are they investing their money when you're looking at their asset allocations? So give us some insight in terms of how this massive wealth continues to compound and grow, and maybe some stuff that you've extrapolated from interfacing with these high net worth individuals.
I think the number one thing I see, most of them, you don't know that they have the money.
Exactly.
Because what they do is they stay under the radar. And when everybody else is asleep, they're thinking and processing and coming up with better ways to run their business. And then by doing that, then their business pops. Then everybody knows about their business, and then everybody wants to meet you. But they've already done, like I said earlier, they've already done all that. The road to Easy Street. They've been in the sewer. They've slopped around with it. And they don't need to brag about it because everybody knows it.
Good. Yeah.
They're good, and you can see it in 30 seconds.
They say the wealthy whisper and the rich are loud.
Right? They talk.
They talk.
They got to show you what car they're driving. They got to have the suit, the tie, the hair done one way.
Right.
You don't need to do that. Just be who you are. And it's amazing. People want to do business with people like that. Because you know what? The people that are most successful are the people you can trust too.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of your largest balance sheet borrowers, etc., is it real estate based, or what are the commonalities?
Here in Arizona, it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I'm sure you've heard this, but this is my feeling. I feel like we are Orange County 25 years ago, and it's just beginning here.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen this market for 40 years. I saw it when it was just a construction market. I've seen things double. I've seen things triple. But we have this unique momentum because we don't have just the sunshine and, nice mountains and, the kind of aura of Scottsdale, Old Town. Everybody wants to go to Old Town. We have so much more. There's education here. There's good people. You can get around town.
Infrastructure.
There's just so much more. And, I have to give Dr. Crow and what he's done while he's been at Arizona State a lot of credit, because he's driven bio here. He's driven tech here. He's driven a lot of things here. And by the U of A and ASU putting those campuses downtown, they revitalized that, which revitalized, kind of a dead zone for a while. And just all of the politicians giving back to that. We're humming right now. the Carolinas are humming, Arizona's humming. I mean, Utah's humming for all the same reasons.
For sure.
People are just, and plus here's the other thing, and you know this because you came in from Detroit. How hard is it to network here?
It's so easy.
You know why? Because everybody's come from someplace else, and everybody wants. They don't want just the 1 or 2 or 10 families control everything.
For sure. There's an abundance of opportunity for everybody to win here if you're willing to put in the work. I say it time and time again.
Right.
If you work hard, there's a space at the table for you every single day.
Right. And every single person has the opportunity to buy a rental or a piece of ground or a tax lien or whatever it might be. Everybody has that opportunity. You just have to believe and go buy one. If you buy one, every time you'll do it, you'll get better at it.
For sure. For sure. This is amazing. Anything that you want to, final words of advice to anyone out there to share and people remember you by?
Just believe in yourself. Go do it, man. Just
do it.
Get up every day and do the same things over and over. It's boring, but find a way to make it find a way to make it exciting for yourself. You have, I know I have. Everybody can do it.
Yeah. I want to thank you personally and your bank for everything you've done for me and help my business grow exponentially and continue to grow. I look forward to another 40, 50 years with your bank.
Absolutely.
Grateful for you, our friendship and relationship. Best bank in town, greatest banker in town and president. Thank you for your time today. This was incredible.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.